here's an important distinction between what Ethereum is good for when it comes to NFTs and what ordinals are good for when it comes to NFTs. Now for Ethereum, the good part is that you are able to actually run code using Solidity language, and you are able to store the code on the blockchain. And now that code can be run in multiple ways. You need not have the NFTs stored on chain, right? That's not really what Ethereum has been designed for, though many people like On-Chain Monkey, etc., many companies like even Nouns.wtf have been doing that. What Ethereum is really meant for, the way it has been designed, is that you are able to use the code, the on-chain data, to actually track ownership and to transfer from person to person and to figure out that, okay, this NFT collection launched by this person, now it has gone here, now it has gone here, now it has gone here. But the actual collection data will be stored off-chain on IPFS or on any other decentralized entity. In fact, previous to when IPFS and Arweave were there, people were actually using AWS servers, but it was not meshing well with the ecosystem. And that is why people shifted over to IPFS and Arweave, which are relatively decentralized but not really, right? What Ordinals is good for is, even though the block data is still limited, right? With each of the sats are the lowest denominator of the Bitcoin, which is one Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million sats. Now, each of the sats can have an inscription of 4 MB. Of course, it is expensive to inscribe, but that 4 MB can be used as an image, which is what people were doing previously, or it can be used as some layers of an image, which can then be called using code, right? So basically, you can also inscribe code. It's really good for running HTML, JavaScript itself. You're able to inscribe HTML, CSS, JavaScript, run games. Maybe you might even host websites on that permanently, right? So it has a totally different use case from the Ethereum blockchain. Whereas Ethereum blockchain is good for pointing out, having a pointer to off-chain data and then tracking your ownership and tracking different code and interactions between the people. What Bitcoin and Ordinals is good for is actually having all the data on-chain, an inscription actually pointing to another inscription. But an inscription cannot really point to something outside the Ordinals ecosystem, at least part of the Ordinals theory. So this ensures that as long as you follow the Ordinal theory standard, everything within Bitcoin is a closed system. So if you want to get React.js in, you want to get P5.js in, which are libraries of JavaScript, then you would have to inscribe them first and then use another inscription to point to this. So it's a different ecosystem, but one where now Ordinals is also having the power of code. And one thing I particularly enjoy about the Ordinals ecosystem is that you can code just in JavaScript, HTML and CSS. I do find the lack of React, especially because I had learned a little bit of React, right? I'm not a pro coder, but I find that people are using very hardcore JavaScript, right? The raw JavaScript development, because these libraries are not readily available yet. So interesting use cases, both have their place. And of course, right now, Ordinals is completely hot, right? Let us see how the ecosystem shakes up. A lot of development is going to come through Ordinals, and there may even be more protocols like Ordinals getting developed. Bitmap, of course, is a protocol on top of Ordinals. Linked it up very beautifully with the blocks. So there have been approximately 790,000 or something blocks, nearing 800,000 blocks on the Bitcoin network. Each block has multiple transactions, right? And he said that how many ever you inscribe, whoever has done the first inscription on an ordinal using that number of the block, he will be known to have that bitmap. And it's just an imaginary concept, right? It's not that you actually own the block. It's just that as part of the .bitmap ecosystem, that protocol will recognize you as owning that block. And then based on that protocol and that ownership, you can actually build something on top of that. There'll be development supported. It's like another metaverse or a new game which is started, but actually based on the Bitcoin blocks itself. And then based on ordinal theory, inscribing on the ordinals, and then what are you inscribing? You're actually inscribing the blocks. So it's quite an interesting thing that they've come up with. Not really the biggest fan of it, because I think there are going to be many other which come up, but definitely 800,000 people have bought it, and there is a chance to do some very interesting development there. Thank you.